try to be really skills focused, because you could talk about the skill, but the important thing is going to be really practicing the skill and then giving opportunities to practice it outside of there. We have a big poster in the center that says practice makes progress. So we talk a lot about how important it is outside of this hour and a half to be really using those skills. So when I say skills, so under gratitude, there's going to be things like writing gratitude letters or making a gratitude list, writing 3 good things that happened that day and why they happened, what impact you had over it. Under forgiveness is learning how to start small and start letting small things go. We actually started a workshop, a smaller class is all that means, called Letting Go, so people could use some of Fred Lutzkin's stuff to really practice that skill of writing a forgiveness letter, practicing forgiving. There's one skill where you practice forgiveness for someone else, so something that wasn't really your doing, but you're just kind of learning how to get that skill before you try it on something really difficult.
Okay, so they can actually be introduced to forgiveness in the positive psychotherapy group, but then there's an offshoot of that. They can really get deeper into forgiveness in a different class. Okay.
Savoring, we do things from making a collage about something you savored in the past, something that's really important to you and brought you good memories, to making a collage of something you're looking forward to. So if a student has a trip they're looking forward to, or they have a family member coming to visit, try to practice things like that. Same thing with mindfulness. We're going to teach them what mindfulness is, but also how to do that. Whether it's just being mindful of the beautiful day and tying that in, or practicing being mindful on the weekend and keeping a journal of doing that.
Okay. With the mindfulness, is there talk of meditation, or how does that go? I can imagine it could be met with challenges. Or...
Well, we have a class that does DBT skills, so we have where we talk about mindfulness and meditation quite a bit. And we've kind of learned that some people need to know what it is to do it, and other folks can, they practice the skill and then you can talk about it. So particularly in individuals, you're trying to just feel that out with someone and have them practice something first and then talk about it to see if they really get what that is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, so gratitude and savoring, forgiveness, anything else specific that, I know you do 15 weeks of this, but
right. So there's acts of kindness or inspiring stories, and I think it's always interesting, if you do acts of kindness, all of a sudden other staff are saying, oh, this student came up to me and did this nice things for me, or did anybody else get a thank you letter? Because you're asking them, hey, do this outside of here, maybe start at the center but then do it outside. So people do start practicing those things. Or under inspiring stories, I use a lot of YouTube videos in class. So they're not just watching me speak, and people really tell you that that's helpful. It gives them an idea of what it looks like. And so all of a sudden I'll get lots of students saying, did you see this video? Did you see this video? Or did you see this funny cat video? And you start getting all these video requests as they're really practicing how to improve their mood some.
Okay. So it sounds like that the group actually kind of makes the work environment, this is a rural mental health center that you're working in, makes it, or can make it a little bit more pleasant. People start hearing thank you.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think one of the most powerful ways to practice positive psychotherapy is to model it. And whatever setting you're in, if you're not alone in your office, you are on stage and people are sometimes watching. So one thing I joke about is I'm terrible with technology often, and I'll screw up hooking the projector up, and they'll be like, you're so bad at this. And I always say, I've got other strengths, so you can do it, joking, or them just watching you practice these things is a pretty easy way. All of a sudden people just start doing what you're doing.
Nice. So you're kind of modeling cognitive restructuring there to some extent, how to be easier with yourself.
Yeah.
And they tend to pick that up.
That's a really tough one, and number one rule, you don't have to. This is all a choice, and so we're just putting ideas out there. I like to kind of phrase things in the beginning as dare to be dorky, sort of encourage them to do stuff out of their comfort zone, but also it's just acknowledging, hey, this might seem weird to you. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm not suggesting that this is going to be the end-all be-all for what you're going through.
Okay.
But would you be willing to try? And if you ask permission for someone to try something, 9 times out of 10, they're willing to give it a try.
It sounds like you're positioning that really well, or what the wilderness folks call front-end loading. You're giving them permission to not be perfect at it.
Right.
And to not like it.
Yeah, that's just an experiment they can try, and we utilize a lot of motivational interviewing. just trying to meet them where they're at. Because if you're really depressed or really struggling and someone tells you to write a thank you note, it can feel really invalidating. So that's been an area where we really try to let people know, hey, I get this is hard, I get what you're going through is big, and really acknowledge the suffering while also trying to find a way to encourage them to try some new things.
Nice. And I was struck by when you said that you have to kind of practice this, or you want to be a model. That's got to get tough at times. I mean, mental health is stressful. How do you do this?
Sure. Well, a great team and with your colleagues. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like positive psychotherapy is a way of being, so hopefully we're doing this with our people we work with as well.
Yeah.
But it's just knowing that it makes my job easier to view people in a light that they have strengths and capabilities and they can improve their mood, and that's what positive psychology is all about. So in some ways it just makes it easier. We'll have bad days.
Sure.
So I get to be gentle with myself and I get to be compassionate. Or most of the time you teach a class and you're going, oh gosh, I'm such a hypocrite. Like, I gotta go home and work on this too. Or, oh, that's right, I was gonna keep a gratitude list and I quit on day 7. So it's, I think, a way you can really connect with the folks in group or an individual that we are all human trying to strive to feel a little bit better, and none of us have it right. And it's hard to practice this. It's hard to keep it up. It's hard to keep up any change.
Yeah.
And just normalizing that.
Okay. Yeah, normalize it. Because it's a work ethic to some extent. Yeah. So I guess you've talked a little bit. Any more personal challenges you find with integrating this? I did hear what you said about it kind of makes your job easier to look for the strengths.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about challenges.
I mean, I think one of the challenges is some of the literature that you'll find. I don't know that how it's written is super easy to translate for our folks. So we've written some of the worksheets a little differently. They're not going to think about things in the same way we will. I think there's activation energy, just means how do you do something more quickly. Like if you want to practice guitar, how do you keep the guitar out of its case? You're more likely to do it. But if you go and talk about activation energy, that doesn't really click. It doesn't click with my brain anyway. So sometimes it's really saying to people hey, this is what this means, and does that fit for you? What would you call it? So that can be a challenge.
Okay.
The piece about that it can sound kind of Pollyanna-ish. And it may sound really easy for me to stand up there and say, let's do things to improve our mood, but it's a lot harder to hear that when you're really struggling with something. So that can be a challenge as well. And then it's always a challenge to support folks in practicing the skills. So, they're kind of jived up about it during class, but how do you go home and not forget about it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think studying this, because you didn't teach the class when I went there. I don't know what your problem was. But,
Right.
I learned it after, but it's inspiring to read about positive psychology because we do spend so much time in the field and in school thinking about problems only and what's wrong, that in some ways it's inspiring to implement this in your practice because it helps you.
Yeah. It makes your job more fun or rewarding or
Yeah.
meaningful. Maybe just real quickly with 30 seconds, tell what kind of clients do you have that are taking your group?
Yeah.
I mean,
so being an outpatient center, that means sometimes people come in and you refer them to a higher level of care, but that's not what they want. So we really get a spectrum of folks that are struggling. So it may be someone having their first major depression, or it might be someone coping with schizophrenia and their meth use. So we really see folks of all levels, and it's a reminder of you might see someone who's really not doing well, but this is just a piece of their life, and they may be doing a lot better in 3 months, 6 months, or a year.